All right, everybody, welcome to the Saints post-game show to get you in the know. I am here with Eric Trosclair. Eric does a couple of things with Eye on the Tigers. Look out for those things with us. He also does the the previews and the recaps of Tiger games, but he's also just a football fan, Saints guy. See the frame photo back there in the background, along with the Pelican stuff. So we got some Saints memorabilia going on, but we'll kick this thing off, man. Carr and company, like I did not expect this. We briefly discussed before the going live that we had that win against Atlanta last season. That while it was a big win, this one just felt like the offense was fun to watch the whole time, which I think was the difference. A lot of different things going on, a lot of different guys getting involved. Two tight ends that we've had that should have been better and looked like they should look today, in Foster Moreau and Jawan Johnson. But how do you feel about the win?
Felt pretty good, man. Like you said, it was good to see the ball spread around, especially using Foster like that, and Jawan finally feels like this was his breakout game. We've kind of been waiting on. That toe tap in the front corner in the end zone. That was nice. He even got in on special teams. So it was nice, man. Like Mason Tipton caught a ball. Bub Means got a little bit of action. It was a good one, man. I felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it also felt like, we it felt like the media that has access to practices and preseason insider stuff. Everybody was, high on Mason Tipton and Bub Means, and even though we didn't really see them in the preseason, which felt like hardly at all, they were giving a lot of different guys run. Even A.T. Perry was getting a lot of run, and Mason Tipton, I know he was kind of struggling a little bit, but those guys came out and I don't want to say they were like invisible because like after Rashid and Olave, like it's them, like it's gonna be them, they made some blocks that were necessary here and there. They were out there doing their job, and that's what you want out of essentially 4 and 5 wide receiver positions, because A.T. Perry is going to be ahead of them whenever they come back purely because of just his size. You need a possession type receiver, but either way, yeah, like you said, Tipton getting a reception means being active, and then we tweeted out Jawan Johnson being in punt coverage and blocking a punt. Like I just feel like shows from top to bottom this season so far. I don't want to get overly excited and overly hype this up because it is week one, right? People are like, oh, it's just the Panthers. I don't necessarily think it's just the Panthers. It's still an NFL team, an NFL roster. The Panthers made a lot of changes. They added a lot of talent on the offense. Second most starting players or second most new players on the team in the NFL this season. So there's a lot to look down on the Panthers for. But at the end of the day, they're still an NFL team, and it still matters because it's a divisional game, and it was one divisional game that kept us out of the playoffs last year. And early in the season last year, Bryce Young, a whole year younger, essentially in the NFL, we only beat the Panthers 20-17 or something like that in week two. This early, this division, this first game, it just sets what I hope to be a really good precedent for the rest of the season because when you start a game, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and that's not across 15 drives. That's the starting drives. The only two drives that we didn't score anything were the last two when Jay Kaner was in, and I think Carr might have been in for one of them. I can't remember, but I mean, you're talking scoring on every single drive that you were out there to play. That's something that quite literally you do not see very often, according to NFL stats and NFL records. First team opening week to do this, first team opening week to do that. So there's a lot to be excited about, even if you're a pessimist. I'd be hard pressed to find a lot of negative things about this game outside of Derek Carr almost getting his head taken off. But other than that, that was probably the only. Maybe not do that next time. It was fun, but then the penalty after that, then the false start was like, all right, come on, this is why discipline's important, because it gets to be very quickly can get out of hand. But yeah, I think I know. At what point did you think we were going to get 50? Did you think it was going to stop there? What did you think was going to happen with the drives?
Yeah, I honestly thought there for a little while that 50 was coming, but then they kind of called off the dogs, to say. But yeah, man, like you said earlier, something I was super impressed with was the blocking downfield. I don't know. I just love seeing receivers blocking. And I remember in the offseason, that's what they kind of talked about. I think I heard one of the coaches say you have to block to get the rock or something like that. And I mean, even Olave was out there throwing some blocks downfield. And like you said, you don't want to see your starting quarterback lower his shoulder. Take a page out of Lamar Jackson's book. But,
you're right.
it was fun to watch, man. And, yeah, I did think that they were going to get 50. But, yeah, there's not too many negatives in this one. The pre-snap motion also was something I noticed. Feel like communication was great. It was nice. It was good to see the Dome, at least hear the Dome back lively again on the broadcast. Kamara looked like his old self. I mean, it's so fun to watch him when he gets going because he just looks like, they used to say, slippery. He looks like he's not even sprinting as fast as he can. Guys just falling off of him. He's I don't know, man. I just, like you said, I don't want to get overly excited, but I feel pretty good about it. This offense looked good.
Yeah, to compare Alvin Kamara to an absolute great, and by no means, am I going to like diminish his game because Alvin Kamara and him are really not the same players. But when you said he doesn't even look like he's running full speed, it reminds me a lot of Barry Sanders sometimes because, Barry Sanders would just it didn't look like he was hitting people hard, but guys would just kind of fall off of him. And it's like when those thighs that he's raising up, and they both have a way of running where like Barry Sanders, it almost felt like he ran with his knees in his chest. He kept his legs pumping, he kept them moving. AK kind of does the same thing. They both love to kind of like make that first initial impact and kind of spin off of it to see if they can go anywhere after that. But that's what he reminds me of sometimes. Barry Sanders, I think most people would still probably pick Barry Sanders over Alvin Kamara, but that's not to discredit anything AK's done because AK's phenomenal and he's, probably the best running back we've had in a very long time. People put him in the conversation with Christian McCaffrey, who obviously has been a little more impactful the past couple of years. But something we hear in football very often. I'm pretty sure Antonio Daniels says it during the NBA season, but winning cures everything, right? Like AK comes into this, his house is on the market. He doesn't want to talk about contract extension. And you got Jamar Chase, who, for the Bengals, he's sick. Well, who knows if he's really sick? We don't know the guy, but exactly, and it's like he doesn't have a new contract. He's not happy about that, and he's sick game one. AK went out there and proved a point. Like he said, like, I'm here, 50th game with over 100 rushing yards. He went out there and did what he's supposed to do. And that's exactly what will get you a contract with the Saints is, to your point, you got to block to get the rock. AK's out there. He's obviously not blocking because he's the one running the ball, but he's still out there doing what he's supposed to be doing, and that's valuable to a team that's trying to prove something. So, one of my keys to the game, I don't know if you were tuned in, I know you were on the road, but I said make Bryce Young see ghosts again because, the first time we matched up against Bryce Young, he was lining up under the tackle. He was, not in the huddle all the time. He was facing the wrong way sometimes. He was looking to the wrong sideline. It felt like we were doing that again because he was overthrowing guys. He was probably rushing throws when he didn't have to, and prime example of nobody wants to see a quarterback get hit because we're all worried they're going to get hurt. But, when Derek Carr took that hit to the chin early on and still launched that ball to Shaheed, there was another throw a couple of plays later for Bryce Young where it was the same thing, but he sailed the receiver because he didn't want to stand in there. And that's exactly what you're supposed to do with a young quarterback, right? You're supposed to kind of rattle them. You're supposed to make sure they're not comfortable. And that's exactly what the Saints defense did. And I don't even feel like the Saints pass rush was unlocked. The Saints pass rush and scheme, I think, always kind of struggled with quarterbacks who like to get mobile. But we still contained Young, but I don't even think we got to where we wanted to be. They said that Chase Young isn't even really taking starter snaps yet. He's going to get starter reps, just not starter snaps. And so, they're still working him into the fold. Cameron Jordan's a veteran who's going to kind of ramp up as the season goes by, and then you're also missing, was it Saunders? I can't remember. You were missing a defensive tackle, and so yeah, I don't think the defensive line was even really all there.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the coverage that we had where it was sailing over receivers was because the corners were doing such a good job at just keeping everything contained. If we did, prime example, the sacks were Alontae Taylor, first cornerback in Saints history to have 3. So definitely was a lot to like on the defensive side of the ball, just like the offensive side of the ball. But any takeaways outside of that you want to kind of bring up as far as what you saw during the game?
No, man, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Of course, Alontae, he had an awesome game, and I'm looking at the stats right now. That's what I was kind of checking out real quick. And yeah, it kind of did seem like that. Like the defensive line as a whole, some guys were missing, and seemed like they didn't. But they held contained. They didn't let Bryce Young really get out of the pocket and escape. And like you said, also Saints have been. Seems like those mobile quarterbacks have always. I mean, they didn't beat us last year, but Tyson Bagent even scooted out the pocket a couple times and got a couple runs, So it I was impressed. Like you said, there was a lot to like on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we touched on that Atlanta game last season. When later in the season we beat the Falcons in a similar way, 48-17. This was 47-10, 47-10. This game feels different. This game felt like it was just, all 3 levels. They even said it during the broadcast. Special teams was clicking. You had Cedric Wilson Jr. drop that punt, muff it. But he's probably 4th on the depth chart if there's a depth chart that goes that deep for punt returners, because I think you would probably put Shaheed back there first. You could argue to put Alvin Kamara back there next. And then you have Taysom Hill, who would very likely be happy to take one from there. So that leaves you Cedric Wilson. And even then, you probably have a cornerback who's like, I like to run fast, and they'll go back there, So the other big thing I want to point out before we kind of hop into the NFC South picture is, there was a question mark at safety, beside Tyrann Mathieu, and he who shall not be named plays for the Atlanta Falcons now, and that was kind of supposed to be like the answer. And then you go through preseason not really knowing who's going to play that free safety spot next to Mathieu. And I mean, first play of the game for the defense, your safety out of nowhere, who's starting today, Harris, intercepts the ball on like a play exactly what a safety's supposed to do. It was just thrown to the middle of the field. He was there. He was where he's supposed to be, and he got it. So shout out to Harris. Shout out for the Saints. There's never been a question that Dennis Allen knows defense. That was never a question. It was always about offensive scheme. So he knew who he wanted back there. He put him back there. And obviously he made the right choice because you just had, like I said, for the very first throw to be an interception to the one question mark that you had on the Saints roster is just pretty impressive, And then later on, the other guy that you kept, from last year drafted, Jordan Howden, he stepped up and he had some tackles and a pass deflection late in the game. So it's good to see that safety spot is not really as much of a question mark as I thought it was going to be. That was kind of my one concern. I thought we would obviously have plenty of corners. You had Lattimore go down and you had Kool-Aid McKinstry come in and solve the problem really quickly. But is there any player specifically that, obviously not the big names, Carr, Kamara, Foster Moreau, that you want to kind of throw a shout out to?
Let's see. Oh yeah, Anthony Orji, man, he kind of stood out. He's a guy a bit, like you said, not a huge name, but he makes those hustle plays, man. He's always all over the field. Special teams, he's always there. And another thing I like too, like when Juwan blocked the punt, I mean, who's the first one there to greet him? You got Taysom and Anthony Orji, so just a true team guy. It looked like those guys were having fun out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, when you have your starting tight end blocking punts, like guys just want to, it reminds me of like high school and Pee Wee football where everybody's trying to run out to the kickoff coverage because they just want to be out there and do something, like that's felt like it was going on. Guy just wanted to be there. So, but it goes without, really saying too, or it should, I don't want to say without saying, the other name on the other side of the ball that, quick shout out to is Trevor Penning because, he got a lot of flack, and I said in the pregame, run the dang ball, because like you play to his strengths. Eventually, those defensive linemen are going to get tired of getting smacked in the face constantly, and they're just not going to want to push as much. And then when you go up 17-0 in the fourth quarter, they don't want to run anymore. They don't want to keep doing that, like it's rough. So, but speaking of the NFC South, we were talking about that Falcons game. Felt a little different. The Falcons are 0-1. The Carolina Panthers, as we know, are 0-1. The JD5 LSU product here is facing off against our other divisional rival in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, currently 6-0, 2 field goals for Tampa. Hopefully Jaden can get that together and take care of a divisional rival for us, because it would be great to start the season 1-0 where the entire NFC South is 0-1 after us. That would be pretty fantastic to see, and enjoy first place solid by ourselves, completely alone for the first season of the game. And we face off against Dallas next week, so obviously NFC implications important there, but not so much NFC South. But it'll still be interesting to see how the rest of this game goes for the Commanders and the Buccaneers, to kind of give us a better picture of the NFC South and everything like that. But any other ones you were keeping your eye on, or maybe are excited to watch for the rest of the NFL slate here?
I'm kind of excited to see how Dak performs after getting that large extension this morning. So I'm excited to kind of watch him. Another one, like you said, JD5. I would like to see his first NFL start, kind of see where he's gonna go. And then I think it's tonight. You got the Lions and the Rams. I feel like that's just a ton of points waiting to happen. That's going to turn into a track meet. I feel like it's always fun when those two teams get together. But yeah, man, with the Falcons losing, Tampa Bay is kind of not too far. It's kind of like a double win, like you said, starting off in first game of the season, you get a W, and then it's also a division opponent. So, 1-0 in the division as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I know you have next week kind of looking at the NFC South. We'll talk about the Saints last so we can get into our matchup there. But you have Monday Night Football for the Falcons and the Eagles. Eagles are obviously a pretty good team, all things considered. Saquon leaving New York and going over there and rushing for 2 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 2 interceptions wasn't great to see, but chalk that up to the beginning of the season. Maybe some nervous jitters, get that out the way. But still, the Falcons, Kirk Cousins, I'd like to see the Eagles take care of them again. And, then the Panthers have the Chargers, Justin Abear, as I'll call him. I know he's not from here, but we'll say it the right way, just like you spell the no the right way, Kneaux. And then as the Buccaneers face off against the Lions, haven't really seen much from either one of those teams so far, just because it's the beginning of the season. But Detroit is a favorite in that game as well. So, but talking about the Saints, we have the Cowboys, as you said. Excited to see what he's a Louisiana kid, even though I think he grew up a Dallas fan. I don't know, Port Sulphur or something like that. And Dak Prescott, always really a big fan of him when he's not playing the Saints. Want to see him succeed, even if he's playing for the wrong team. But next week against Dallas, anything to watch out for against Dallas that's on your mind?
It's going to be exciting to see those receivers, those Dallas receivers, Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb, see how these cornerbacks and this defensive backfield could handle them, because I feel like while, of course, CeeDee Lamb's one of the best in the league, of course, we have the Saints have Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, it's just going to be a good strength on strength, I feel like, right there. It's going to be fun to watch that matchup. How about yourself?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was going to point out the fact that, the Cowboys kind of, to me, feel like the Saints a little bit as far as the wide receiver position goes, because you have CeeDee Lamb, who's obviously phenomenal. You have Brandon Cooks, who's a speed guy, CeeDee's a route runner extraordinaire. He's going to find a way to get open, toe tap on the sideline, and Rashid's going to burn you. And we know as Saints fans that Brandon Cooks can get over the top and burn you as well. But then after that, you have this fall off of a second-year guy and Jalen Brooks, a third-year guy and Jalen Tolbert, and then Turpin. I think he might be in. I can't remember if Turpin's injured or not, but I was looking at that earlier and I was like, man, that kind of looks like the Saints wide receiver room. Like after your two big guys, it's like who goes there after that? Personally, I would take Rashid Shaheed over Brandon Cooks, and that's not even throwing slight at him. It's a business. I'm a businessman type thing that he pulled back in the day. I like Brandon Cooks. Got the chance to meet him some time ago. He signed something for us, even as a former Saints player. Really cool guy. But I feel like Rashid, he's younger, he's a little more electric than Brandon Cooks. So I think the Saints do have a little bit better of a wide receiver room because I like A.T. Perry more than any of their third guys as well. But to your point, yeah, like it's going to be fun to see, those are CeeDee and where he may not got this contract, that makes Olave's contract a little harder to swallow for us coming up. They shell out some money for Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, so they better perform or there's going to be a lot of upset Dallas fans. Hopefully 2 weeks in a row. I'll take them coming off of a loss and angry, and we put them away even further. But yeah, obviously you always have Zeke as well over there. But I don't foresee that really being an issue. The Saints have had phenomenal run stopping defense for what feels like over a decade at this point. We've had the longest streak for less than 100-yard rusher, and then the streak went away. We lost it, and then like 37 games later, like the Saints are now tied for the second longest streak, and it's like, who was that? The Saints. Who holds the first one? The Saints. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we're doing fine, so not too concerned about Zeke. And then, Dak Prescott, he got that contract. I'm willing to bet he's going to be a little more mobile, a little more willing to run around and make things happen because he's paid now. So, he should be good. But next week we're at Dallas, so we get to go to that great stadium, AT&T or something like that. I can't remember, but they put a lot of money into that. Looks really good. Jerry Jones, they were kind of talking about him on the pregame show for the Fox 8 about how Jerry Jones, the owner, needs to become a better Jerry Jones, the GM, because he makes fantastic decisions for the team and he signs the right guys but there's kind of a drop off, like nothing's happening. He has no results for it other than a really expensive new stadium. So it'll be interesting to see how Dallas's year goes after paying those guys a lot of money. But as long as they lose in week 2, I don't really care how the rest of the season for Dallas goes. But the other thing that, jumping back into Saints a little bit, we talked bets. I don't know if you did any betting today, but our guy Marcelo, he might be popping back in and doing the Grow Your Dough, spelled correctly again, Greaux. And we'll see how that goes. But he put on there, you got any bets? And he said, take that Bryce Young quarterback for an interception. I like it. And if you took it, you won that. And in the pregame show, I said that I really like both running backs to get a touchdown. You pair Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams in with it, and both those guys got a touchdown. Unfortunately for myself, one thing I wasn't confident in, but I still put on the bet ticket and I lost. If I'd have just stuck to my guns and done 2 touchdowns, I'd have won. But I put the Jadeveon Clowney to get a sack because I just felt like Trevor Penning, come on, like it's been rough to watch, and I felt like if it happened, it was going to happen early. They were going to make an adjustment, keep a tight end in there, but really we didn't have to keep any tight ends in, which I think helped a lot. It gave Derek Carr a consistent outlet in both Foster Moreau and Jawan Johnson. So I didn't win, but if you listened to me pregame, you would have won because Marcelo in the comments said drop some money on a Bryce Young interception, and I said drop some money on both Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara to get touchdowns, and both of those guys did. So hopefully we won someone some money somewhere. I lost my money, but did you do any betting before the game?
No, man. No, I was like you said earlier, I was on the road, so wasn't able to really make any bets.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I'm be looking around tonight though, but yeah, I didn't do that this morning.
Yeah, I think the only thing I really like tonight is it's an easy one to just go with the Sunday night or the Monday night game. like you said, the Rams and Lions game is going to be one of those where it's like either a shootout where you look at the score later on, you're like, damn, they scored 60 points altogether, or it's going to be a game where you're like, how did the Lions only score 3 points? It's a tricky one, but I like Monday Night Football a little better. You have the 49ers going against the Jets. That feels like a game that should be mostly one-sided. The NFL is a different kind of beast, so you never really know what's going to happen. But I do feel like the 49ers should have that one pretty well wrapped up. I not to discount Aaron Rodgers, but I just feel like the 49ers have a little bit more of a complete team, but I'm willing to be wrong. It would be fun to have some interesting Monday Night Football to watch. But what I do like for that Sunday night or Monday Night Football game, it's just simple. Keep it Christian McCaffrey touchdown, right? Like, I don't see why that can't happen. The Jets, I don't follow them enough to know about their run defense, but there's very few teams that have kept Christian McCaffrey out of the end zone, so I'm comfortable with a Christian McCaffrey touchdown. So, but any bets you have for the rest of the NFL slate? Not too many games since the 325 games have started already, but you got Rams in Detroit and Jets and 49ers.
Yeah, I'll be looking at that Rams and Lions over and under. I'll be seeing that, seeing if I could play with it a little bit. And like you said, Christian McCaffrey touchdown. That's feels like easy money. It's like an Iowa under.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Can't go wrong.
I wonder. I just caught that. Yeah, I didn't hear it the first time, but yeah, I caught it on the flip there. But I do want to give credit to Gaming Grunt, and I think it was Steph. I can't remember who Grunt had joined them, but they said Alvin Kamara, which obviously we added on to the anytime touchdown scorer there with Alvin Kamara. But Grunt also said that he likes the over for the Saints, and the over was 41.5. And the Saints game, I should say, the Saints got your over by themselves. They didn't even need the help of the Panthers 10 points. So if you bet the over, you also won some money. So again, if you're trying to win money, I guess watch our pregame show. If you need any incentive, there you go. We got you covered week 1. We made you some units so you can lose the rest of the season with us. But either way, we'll be here. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I am Ethan Myers with the Kneaux here with Eric Trosclair of the Kneaux. Again, he does Eye on the Tigers and LSU content. So make sure you follow him. At Easy Tro with a ZEAZYTRO on Twitter. Eric Trosclair on Instagram. We tag him in the stuff that he posts, so make sure you follow him. And like I said, he'll be here with us throughout the Saints season on and off. So, yep, thanks for tuning in to the post-game show to get you in the know. We'll be back next week.